Hello, this is Dr. Swanberg, and I'm going to talk to you today about academic integrity and taking pride in your own thoughts. What is integrity? Integrity means, according to the American Heritage Dictionary, steadfast adherence to a strict moral or ethical code. That means that a person with integrity always does what is right, even when what is right is a difficult choice or has consequences. Integrity also means the quality or condition of being whole or undivided, completeness. Again, this definition comes from the American Heritage Dictionary. People who have integrity are complete and whole people whose spirits are strong and who don't crumble in times of trouble. Academic integrity means always doing your own work, being proud of your own thoughts and accomplishments, no matter how big or small, knowing when to accept help and when to work independently, admitting when something is hard for you and seeking help from tutors and teachers instead of trying to hide, avoid, cheat, or plagiarize, and accepting that we can learn from failure as well as success, and that everyone experiences setbacks. We're going to talk about cheating now. What is cheating? Cheating is the breaking of rules to gain advantage in a competitive situation. Again, this definition comes from the American Heritage Dictionary. You can cheat on a quiz or a test by using an electronic device to look up answers, by looking at a secret written answers during a test, by asking another student to tell you what is on a test before you take it, or by looking at another student's answers. When you cheat, you get cheated. You are paying for an education. An education means that you have learned and mastered the material, not just that you have earned a grade. If you cheat and get an A, but you still don't know the material, then you've robbed yourself of that education. And chances are, when you get out into the workforce and are asked to produce and use that skill, you're going to lose a job, which is a lot worse than getting a bad grade in a class. Your classmates also get cheated when you cheat. When you cheat off their tests or work, it is abusing your classmates. They are working hard for their grades and do not deserve to be used or exploited. We're going to talk about plagiarism next, and I want to go over what plagiarism is. Using someone else's ideas or phrasings and representing those ideas or phrasings as your own, either on purpose or through carelessness, is by plagiarism. Ideas or phrasing includes any written or spoken material. It can be a whole paper, a paragraph, a sentence, or even a phrase. It can also include statistics, lab results, artwork, basically any piece of work that belongs to somebody else. A plagiarized source can be a professional source, a published writer or critic in a book, magazine, encyclopedia, journal, or on the internet, and an electronic source, such as material found on the internet, or even another student, tutor, or relative. Paraphrasing, putting source material into your own words without proper citation and documentation, also constitutes plagiarism. So you can't just put some of the words in your own words and leave the rest there without proper documentation. Even when you're closely talking about it in your own words, you still need to cite that. I also want to talk about who plagiarizes. It can be anybody. It goes across gender lines, age lines, race lines. It really is anybody. Most of the time, people who plagiarize are not bad people or lazy people. They are people who are panicking. Usually a student who makes the decision to plagiarize is facing failure because they are up against a deadline they cannot meet or trying to complete work that is too advanced for them at that moment. They do not want to fail, and they know they cannot get the work done, so they decide to get some help. Let's go over the various consequences of failing honorably and choosing to cheat or plagiarize. Nobody likes to fail, yet every person in the world experiences failure at some point in their lives. You may have to start over, and this may cost time or money, so you may need to retake a class if you don't pass it. You may need to back up and do some work a little bit more carefully, a little bit more slowly. You may have gotten ahead of where you need to be. If you fail honorably, you can replace a failing grade by retaking a class or rewriting an essay. You can be proud to know that you did your best and know how to improve next time or even be comforted that your failure was caused by factors beyond your control. But what happens if you cheat or plagiarize is not as forgiving. You receive a 0 for the paper or project, or the test or quiz, and you must go through additional training about what plagiarism is that is mandated by the college. If that 0 causes you to fail a course, that grade cannot be replaced when you retake the course. A report is made through the advocate system. If you are caught again, Lawson can pursue further disciplinary action, which may include suspension or even expulsion if you continue to make the choice to plagiarize. A student who is expelled for academic dishonesty may have a very hard time being accepted at a different school. You also lose the trust of your teachers, and you have to struggle with a guilty conscience. Let's go over what honest work looks like and how your teachers may be spotting plagiarism. Below is a wonderful piece of student writing, and I'm going to read it with you. In the beginning of the novel, Janie was put under the bus by other females who may have wanted to be in her place. They really didn't care for her or care to be around her, at least that's how they made it seem. The females always had some judgment to pass about Janie. However, the females judged her and Janie never let it bother her, and that's when I began to think she was a strong woman. I wouldn't say that Janie changed in a bad way, but she did have her weak moments. Janie let men beat her, use her for money, and just not respect a woman's worth. Janie also was easily influenced by a man, I would have to say, because she let a man decide if she was beautiful or not. She should have known how she felt about herself and not let a man decide for her. This is a really good piece of writing talking about a character in a Zora Neale Hurston novel. Now we're going to take a look at a piece of writing that was plagiarized. Here's some previously published writing on the same topic, writing about the same novel. Janie searches for spiritual enlightenment and a strong sense of her own identity. She is a woman, but defies gender stereotypes by insisting on her independence and wearing overalls. Behind her defiance, a curiosity and confidence drive her to experience the world and become conscious of her relation to it. Janie's maturity will rest in her ability to realize that others' cruelty toward her, or their inability to understand her, stems not from malice, but from their upbringing or limited perspective. Throughout the novel, Janie grows more and more defeated. She silently submits to Jodi's imperious nature and performs her duties while ignoring her emotions. She feels her spirit detached from her body, and she watches herself work at the store and submit to Jodi, while her mind is really elsewhere. This detachment allows her to accept stoically a life that she has grown to hate. And again, this is publishing quality work, and although we expect really strong writing, to see the complexity of the sentence structures here and the level of vocabulary is a departure from what we're usually seeing in beginning writers. Let's check for yourself. See if you can use the following words and phrases from the previous piece of writing in a sentence. The student who turned in this work as their own could not do this, and that's what gave it away. Some of the words that jumped out at the instructor are enlightenment, gender stereotypes, drive, stems, limited perspective, detach, defies, defiance, conscious, malice, imperious, and stoically submit. And again, when asked to use these in the same way that they were used in the paragraph submitted by the student was unable to do that. There were several words that they didn't even know what they meant. So again, that's a red flag. If we haven't seen you using these kind of words before, we would want to talk to you about where the sudden improvement in your vocabulary came from. We do expect strong improvements in your vocabulary, but this is a little bit miraculous improvement in your vocabulary. And while we expect strong improvement, we don't expect miraculous improvement. Let's go over some examples of things that are plagiarism. Number one, you take too much help from a peer or a tutor. They suggest words and phrases that are unfamiliar to you, but they sound impressive, so you use them. For example, you wrote the sentence, "I like things to be explained simply," and they suggested, "I prefer concepts to be delineated succinctly and concisely." They mean the same thing, and you decide theirs sounds better, so you use their words, and that's plagiarism. You have to use your own words. If your tutor is supplying words to you, ask them to take a step back and just help you figure out your own words for yourself. Second example of plagiarism is you've been asked to write about a poem. You don't understand the poem, so you look on the internet for some ideas of what to say. One website tells you that the poem is about God because it uses images of lambs, doves, and eagles. You write a paper saying that the poem is about God because it is about lambs, doves, and eagles, but you don't tell me about the website where you got this idea. And that's plagiarism. Even the basic concepts that you're writing about need to be your own. Example of plagiarism number 3. You read a book review that the book is about, quote, a humble mining family in rural Alabama deep in the Depression era when resources were scarce. And you write in your paper that the book is about a humble mining family in rural Alabama when resources were hard to find. Even if you put a few of your own words in and change things around a little bit, that's plagiarism. You got way too many words that belong to somebody else in that second sentence. Example of plagiarism number 4. If your essay consists of wall-to-wall quotes and none of your own ideas, that's plagiarism. You must use mostly your own ideas, even in a paper that allows you to do some research. The basic idea is that your thinking should be the star of the show, and your research is there to support you. Examples of plagiarism number 5. You cut and pasted ideas from the internet and turn them in as if they were your own work. Your teacher can tell, and that's plagiarism. Basically, folks, if you can find it on the internet, your instructor can find it on the internet. Additional examples of plagiarism. Collaborating with another student too closely so that your papers resemble each other too much. Turning in an old paper in a new class. For every new class, you have to do new work. Taking too much help from a tutor, paraphrasing too closely, also providing fake citations rather than doing the work of citing properly, putting words in quotes without a proper citation. Just putting quotations around it does not do the job of telling me where that quote came from, and that's the essential step to make sure that we know where the work came from and that you've cited it properly. Remember, your thoughts are valuable, so you should always use your own thoughts. This is your education, and you have to work for it. If you do, it will mean so much more. Sometimes you may fail. If you fail honorably, you can hold your head high and try again. The consequences of cheating or plagiarizing are not worth the benefits. The bottom line is your own thoughts are good enough, smart enough, and they are important, and we want you to use them.